Hello YouTubers, Duke, hey Dave. Today I'm now going to do my rankings on the Colin Baker seasons of Doctor Who, as this year also marks the 40th anniversary when Colin Baker made his debut to the show. Now, as you know, Colin Baker only did the show for 2 years and 2 seasons, making him literally one of the shortest serving actors to portray the Doctor on screen. But that was not his fault. There was a lot of production issues and issues going on with the show during 1985 to 1986. And so, there was a lot of... I don't think this ranking will last very long. I already, as my last ranking on the Peter Davison era, ran for 33 minutes, but I wasn't intending to, but that's because that's... the Davison's first 2 seasons had a total of 7 stories, and his final season had 6 stories. So as you know, I will. Season 21 does not count as Colin Baker's first season, as he barely did this show. He barely did do season 21. I just consider Twin Daniela to be part of season 22, depending on your point of view. So let's begin. So really at number 2 we have season 22. Now, this is probably, in my opinion, the weakest classic series season of all time. I probably consider it the weakest out of the whole, out of the original series, and probably the weakest out of both, basically out of the whole era in general. One of the weakest. Attack of the Cybermen. At first I found that story to be okay, but now when I think about it now, I think it was really not that bad. I think it's a good story, not one of the best Cyberman stories, but still pretty good. Could have been better. I wasn't a fan of the TARDIS changing from a blue box to that piano orchestra thing, or the gate thing. It just made it look kind of stupid. I think that's what ruined, was kind of like the downhill point to the show, and kind of really caused a lot of criticism to the show. But Attack of Cybermen, still a really good story. I think they should have kept the TARDIS just as a police box throughout that entire story. So Vengeance of Varus, really good story, although not one of the best stories. I do not praise it like others do, but it's still a really good story. I just find it to be a bit overrated. I like Syl. I think he's a great villain. I find him quite funny and hilarious. How he does that laugh. So but Vengeance of Varus is considered one of my favorite Colin Baker stories of all time. I think Syl works so much better here than what he did in Mind Warp. So it's a great story. Not one of the best, but not one of the worst. I do not praise it like other people do. I just find it to be a tiny bit overrated. But that's just my opinion. Then we got Mark the Rani. It's an okay story. I think the Rani's a really interesting villain. Although there was no need to bring them up. I just don't think the Master should have really been in that story at all. But it just felt pointless, like he was just shoved in for fan service at that point. And I just thought the Master at that point was just becoming a bit overused at that point. That was just my opinion. He was great during Keeper-Truk and Logopolis of Tom Baker's final season. He was great during seasons 19 and 20 of the Peter Davison era. He was good during seasons 20 and 21 of Davison's last 2 seasons of the show. But I just felt that Mark the Rani, when I watched Mark the Rani, I just felt like the Master was starting to become really overused at that point. That's just my opinion. And then overall, Mark the Rani is an okay story, not one of the best classic series stories, but then we got The Two Doctors, which is another okay story. It was nice to see the Sultanas come back. I feel like that was the real strong point to that story, but it's nice to see the second Doctor and Jamie again, which is really nice. Although I feel at that point, I feel like Pat Troughton had really aged at that point. He looked really old. Like, he really aged so much since the Five Doctors. Even Doctors, like, his hair gone completely all grey, which tackles into the season 6B theory quite a lot. And I just feel like Pat Troughton's acting betrayal of the Doctor that he really lost his zing as the Doctor at that point. Like, let's be honest, like, he was fantastic in the Three Doctors. He was great in the Five Doctors, but I just feel like after the Five Doctors, his acting betrayal of the Doctor just feels rather bland and stale at that point. So that's just my opinion. Basically, the Two Doctors is basically Pat Troughton's last appearance to portray the role as the second Doctor in the whole show. As Pat Troughton passed away, I believe I think it was mid-1987, prior to Sylvester McCoy's first season had aired. So yeah. Not one of the best. Overall, The Two Doctors is a okay story. Again, not one of the best, but could have been handled a little bit more better. Time Lash it's a really shit story. Probably one of the worst stories of the whole show. Like, I consider it one of the worst of the original series. Like William, like every Doctor's got pretty much of a worst story. Like William Hartnell, it's the Ark. Pat Troughton, it's the Space Pirates. John Pertwee, it's the Time Monster. Tom Baker, it's the Horns of Nimon. Peter Davison, it's Time Flight. Chris David Tennant, it is Fear Her. Matt Smith, it is God Complex. Peter Capaldi, it's Kill the Moon. Jolly Whittaker, it's Tessa Crumdrum episode, I believe it's called, from series 11. So yeah, overall, it's a pretty shit story. I did like this. I did like that portrait of the Third Doctor making a cameo, but again, like with the but again, I just feel like they added that painting of the Third Doctor in just for fan service. That's just my opinion. Then we got Revelation Daleks, my favourite Colin Baker story all time. Fantastic story. It does so well for a two-part. The pacing's just perfect. I love how Davros is like the great healer and how his head's in this glass jar, but then you realize it's just a decoy, as the real Davros himself was hiding in the shadows. It was just kind of creepy when the decoy version of Davros, his head just melts away, melts like his brain has died. That was pretty messed up. And then seeing that the Necros Daleks is pretty interesting, an interesting concept, which I believe the story as this story is a sequel to Resurrection of the Daleks, as it's considering as a prior Time War Dalek story. So yeah, and I loved how the Necros Daleks form just look really messed up and horrifying. It really gave me nightmares. So overall, I love it. Revelation Daleks is my favourite comic book story of all time. It's a fantastic story, and that's kind of a story I would really watch over and over again. Fantastic story. Overall, season 22 is not one of the best Colin Baker stories of all time. Not seasons of all time. I consider it probably like the weakest classic series season of the original series, and and one of the weakest seasons of the whole show in general. So yeah, so at number 1, you guessed it, Trial of Time Lord. I feel like this season was a huge improvement over season 22. Colin Baker's acting material is so superb in this season. I feel like he was really starting to get more into the role as the Doctor. Mysterious Planet, great story, such a fantastic start to season 23. It's a really underrated and unappreciated story. And I would definitely watch that story again. Those two twins and that robot acting as their father is pretty funny. It's pretty hilarious. So yeah, and I think it's actually one of my favorite stories of all time. Mysterious Planet, fantastic story, and it's really underrated, unappreciated. Mind Warp, great. Mind Warp is a pretty good story too, but it was nice to see Syl back again, and we introduced to Syl's mate, but I feel like Syl's seems a bit pathetic at this point. I just feel like he's just not as intimidating as what he was in Vengeance of Voros. Overall, look, Mind Warp is a good story, but I probably consider it the weakest out of season 23. That's just my opinion. What's your opinion about that story? Let me know in the comment below. And then we got Terror of the Verboids, another fantastic story, and another one of my favorite Colin Vega stories of all time. That story is really underrated and unappreciated. I actually, when I got the Blu-ray box set version of season 23, I actually got to watch you can actually now watch Terror of the Verboids as, if you take away all the trial court scenes out, and they add in adding the deleted scenes from Terror of the Verboids, it acts like its very own episode, which is really great. It acts like an own standalone episode. So if you want to watch it as a standalone episode, I have watched it as a standalone episode, and it's so brilliant and makes the episode so much better than it is. So overall, Terror of the Verboids, fantastic episode. Definitely probably one of my favorite Colin Vega stories of all time. Then we got The Ultimate Foe, which is a fantastic story. The mystery of the Veliard being relieved. It was a nice introduction. Mill is great here. I just feel like her character is really underrated and appreciated. It was nice that Chris Chibnall and Russell T Davies brought her back for Parallel Doctor and the Giggle, giving her Doctor more appreciation than what she deserves. And I feel like the mystery of the Veliard's pretty creepy, and being relieved that he was an incarnation of the Doctor that exists in between the Doctor's 12th and final incarnation, all the Dark Ascepts. So the Ultimate Foe is a fantastic story. I consider it one of my second favorite Colin Vega story of all time. It's such a fantastic final to such a brilliant season. And it does so well for pacing for a two-parter. The hands grabbing the Sixth and dragging him into sand, that was pretty terrifying in my opinion. So overall, season 23, in my opinion, is such a huge improvement over Colin Vega's last season. It's a fantastic season. In my opinion, it's probably one of John Lee Turner's best seasons as producer. And it was such a shame that Colin Vega got fired from the show, as his acting material was getting better and better. It would have been cool what his acting material would have been like in season 24 or even 25 or 26. If he had stayed on for another 3 seasons, who knows? Overall, season 23, fantastic season. Love it. Overall, that was my ranking on the Colin Vega era of the show. Later now, and bye now, farewell. This is Duke K-Dave, signing off. Bye.